I want to talk to you about editing and proofreading, surprisingly enough. Those who were here for my last insights will remember that I presented some examples of where marketing messages and eye-catching logos and advertising really should have been checked by a professional. And then just to add to that as well, if it's being checked, it's also, if you're really proud of it, go on to trademark it, chat to Steve. This is an element of proofreading though, but it is also more than that. And I'll go on to explain this and show a couple of examples. So many people think they don't need a proofreader or an editor to check over their work because they might think, oh, I can use a spell check, I can spell, I have a good grasp of the English language, or as was the case with the previous visuals I showed, I can get colleagues to look over my work. But as we've seen previously, and as I'm sure you've seen in examples as you've been out and about, it's at this point that I myself want to raise a big red flag and wave it vigorously, because I'm here to break down this misconception. By the way, what I'm about to say doesn't mean these people need an editor or proofreader. They're just examples to stress my point of putting trust in professionals. So, I mean, for example, just looking around the room now, Dave, would you ask someone to sort their own funding requirements for their home and mortgage just because they live in a house? David, would you trust someone to develop a good website because they claim they have used the internet since it was invented and therefore they must know their stuff? And Jodie, just pick you as well. Have you ever come across anyone who thinks they'll just plonk their logo on a ruler they have bought from Staples or a bag they've purchased from Sports Direct or wherever? I'd like to think not, because people come to you because you're the trusted professional in your field. And I think it's important we do put our trust in professionals who are trained to deliver things, because ultimately your words are a focal point of your business. They are the things that are seen on social media, your website, your marketing material, advertising campaigns, bookshops, trade shows, whatever it may be. So it's important that they are right. I quite often say, and a favourite phrase of mine actually is that we only get one chance to make a first impression. And I think that goes for kind of any walk of life and any business as well. So I thought I'd offer insight into what constitutes editing and what is proofreading, and just give a couple of examples here and now in the time available. And these are examples of just why these services can prove important to you and your business. So I'll just start with editing. I hope you're still with me. Copy editing involves editing fresh from the source. So in this case, you, the author, if you're sitting down to write something, you are the author of that piece. So the purpose here, from a professional's standpoint of objectivity, a trained editor and proofreader, is to check typos, is to check basic grammar, inconsistencies, style. Is there a house or a preferred style? And there's been a number of clients who I've worked with who they have their own style guide. So therefore you make sure it's akin to their style for consistency. Points about structure, raising editorial queries relating to sense and references and abbreviations and heading levels, and also offering just little different ways of thinking about things. So maybe suggestions to highlight at this stage of, have you thought about it this way in order for it to resonate with your audience? Just moving on from that, another element of editing is content editing, and this includes elements of crossover with a copy edit, though it also delves a little deeper into the editorial process, and it can include like restructuring and conducting research into queries concerning references and abbreviations. A content edit can also initiate suggestions to the author for potential rewriting if required, again, just to ensure that it resonates with that end audience and who you ultimately are targeting. Both of these forms of editing that don't require a subject area background necessarily. Yes, it may be a benefit, but the ultimate job of any editor, whoever it may be, is to ensure they see things from the reader's perspective. So breaking things down and ensuring that clarity of message, which is like super important, I would say. So I will share my screen in a moment, and here's an example of editing of a letter. I have permission to show you this, but I have kept it small given there are other names mentioned in the text as well. So if I can just share this. Just give me a little thumbs up if you can see a letter that's lovely. Thank you. So this short piece, I realise it's small, though this short piece gives you an idea of the work involved in an edit. So the tracked changes that you see in red, this is something which is familiar to people, I'm sure, in Microsoft Word. And this highlights the things checked, corrected, and where alternatives and fresh suggestions have been offered to people that may not have been considered previously. And in the instance of this letter, I know from speaking with the client that the changes suggested did result in the final product resonating more and talking more to the intended audience. So yes, win-win. Editing involves this process that clarifies points with the author, as I say, ultimately putting forward a more persuasive product to encourage that all-important engagement, really. Proofreading. So I'll just take that down now if I can. Sorry, there we go. Proofreading. Consider a proofreader the last line of defence before your work goes live to its audience. And when I was writing this, I just kept thinking of Men in Black, and I considered last line of defence, but that might just be me. A proofreader will generally work with you to work on a PDF document if the project is being designed, and they will read through the content and check for consistency and to be able to check layout. So, for example, is the table in the correct place? Are page numbers, figure numbers, table headings correctly numbered and formatted? Do the numbers on the contents page tally with what is in the body copy? I know from working with numerous people previously that so many people are caught out by this, because even if a document has been edited, as we've discussed, in the raw format of Word, once a file has been through the design process and come out the other side, then the page numbers could be skewed. So it's important that those things are checked afterwards as well. And I think this is one of the many reasons that editors and proofreaders and designers work so closely together and have such an understanding and appreciation of each other's work as well. Next up, I've got just one more thing to show you, and this is just a one-page spread from a magazine that I worked on. And if you look at the number of annotations and comments boxes, which I will share now, this was on a double-page spread. You might think that this has been like ultra picky. I don't think it. Well, I suppose it is really, but I don't think it is, because it's it's your profession, isn't it? I suppose there's an element of being pedantic, just with it comes with the nature of like looking at people's work. But ultimately, things need to be right. Things need to resonate. So these are valid points raised for the overall benefit of this particular magazine. Checking things with the client, making sure all is as it should be, because going back to what I said early doors, be it editing, be it proofreading, be it copywriting, be it any of the businesses on this call, ultimately you want your client to be happy, don't you? So it's that saying again, we only get one chance to make a first impression. So I think I'm nearing the end of my allotted 10 minutes, but I hope this has given you an indication of why words should be checked for the good of your business and your reputation. Consider a proofreader, editor and copywriter a member of your team, and we do have your best interests at heart, so don't see us as like, oh, I can't give it to them. It's a team effort, all about collaboration. So I'm happy to answer any questions relating to any of this, should you have any. And I'll put into the chat as well a little overview of the services available should you wish to explore more. Thank you very much.
That's fantastic. Thanks ever so much, Craig. Some really interesting things there. And I know, having worked with you, exactly what those editing track changes look like. No, it's absolutely brilliant though. Well done. Thank you. We've probably got time for one very quick question, and anything else if it can go into the chat, that'd be brilliant. Steve, brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully I won't annoy Craig with this question, but what do you think of Grammarly? Is that any good?
I don't like it personally, and I'm not just saying that because of the trade I'm in, but I think different programs sometimes lack the human element. Now, if you're going to say, let's write a blog that's so bespoke to a client, platforms such as that and AI, yeah, they have their bonuses, but I think they also have a lot of drawbacks. I think that's something that people also need to be aware of, because this platform or this chatbot doesn't recognize that you're writing for this particular audience and answering those particular questions. So I would say be careful with things like that. And I do know people who have used Grammarly previously, and it has not changed meaning. Take, for example, the word there. There's a couple of variants of that. It's not altogether picked up what they were looking for. So I would be very careful with that.
Ironic when it's a grammar tool.
Indeed.